Imagine waking up in a country where medieval castles sit beside modern cities, where mountains seem to guard centuries of secrets, and where history quietly shaped the future of an entire continent. This is Austria, a small nation in the heart of Europe, yet its story once controlled the destiny of kings, wars, and empires. Today, we explore how this quiet alpine country became one of the most powerful forces in European history and why its past still matters to the modern world. Before we continue, if you love discovering powerful untold stories from world history, make sure to subscribe to Epic History Documentary and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey into the past. Austria's story begins long before it was even called Austria. Thousands of years ago, Celtic tribes lived across these lands, trading salt and metals across Europe. Then came the Romans. Around the 1st century, the Roman Empire expanded into the region and built military camps, roads, and cities along the Danube River. One of those Roman settlements eventually became Vienna, a city that would later stand at the center of a vast empire. When the Roman Empire collapsed, the region became a crossroads for migrating tribes and emerging kingdoms. For centuries, the land was fought over, settled, and reshaped by different peoples. But everything changed in the year 976. That year, a new frontier territory was created, called the Ostariki, meaning Eastern Realm. It was a small borderland designed to defend the Holy Roman Empire from invasions coming from the east. At first, this eastern frontier seemed insignificant, just a narrow strip of land along the Danube River. But over the next few centuries, a powerful family known as the Habsburgs would turn this small border province into the heart of one of the longest ruling dynasties in world history. The rise of the Habsburg dynasty changed everything. In 1278, Rudolf of Habsburg defeated his rival in battle and secured control of Austria. What followed was one of the most strategic expansions Europe had ever seen. Instead of conquering lands only through war, the Habsburgs often expanded through marriage alliances. There was even a famous saying across Europe, "Let others wage war, but you, happy Austria, marry." This strategy worked brilliantly. Over generations, Habsburg marriages connected Austria to Spain, Hungary, Bohemia, and large parts of Italy. By the 1500s, the empire stretched across much of Europe and even overseas territories in the Americas. Vienna grew into one of the most powerful capitals on the continent. It became a center of politics, culture, and diplomacy. But Austria's rise also brought enormous challenges. The Ottoman Empire, one of the most powerful forces of the time, pushed deep into Europe and threatened Vienna itself. In 1529, the Ottomans laid siege to the city. Their massive army surrounded Vienna, hoping to capture the gateway into Europe. The battle was intense, and the future of the continent hung in the balance. Against overwhelming odds, the defenders of Vienna held their ground. The Ottoman army eventually retreated, but the conflict was far from over. More than a century later, in 1683, the Ottomans returned with an even larger force. Once again, Vienna stood on the brink of collapse, but this time, a coalition of European armies arrived to break the siege. The battle that followed outside the city changed history. The Ottoman advance into Europe was stopped, and Austria emerged stronger than ever. During the 1700s, Austria transformed into a cultural powerhouse. The empire became famous for music, art, and architecture. Vienna turned into the musical capital of Europe. Composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and later Strauss filled the city with masterpieces that still inspire audiences today. But while culture flourished, political tensions were quietly building across Europe. Empires were struggling to maintain control over diverse populations who wanted independence and representation. Austria ruled over many different ethnic groups, including Hungarians, Czechs, Croats, and Italians. Keeping such a vast empire united became increasingly difficult. In 1848, revolutions erupted across Europe. People demanded freedom, constitutions, and political reform. Austria faced massive protests and uprisings. The empire managed to survive the crisis, but it was clear that the old political system could not continue forever. To stabilize the empire, a major compromise was reached in 1867. Austria and Hungary formed a dual monarchy known as the Austro-Hungarian Empire, two nations under one crown, ruled by Emperor Franz Joseph. This arrangement allowed Hungary greater autonomy while keeping the empire united. For decades, the Austro-Hungarian Empire remained one of the most influential powers in Europe. Its cities thrived, its railways expanded, and its cultural influence spread across the continent. But beneath the surface, tensions between different ethnic groups continued to grow. Then came a moment that would change the world forever. In June 1914, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, traveled to Sarajevo. During his visit, he was assassinated by a nationalist seeking independence for Slavic territories. That single event triggered a chain reaction of alliances and declarations of war across Europe. Within weeks, the world was plunged into the First World War. Austria-Hungary found itself fighting on multiple fronts against powerful enemies. The war dragged on for brutal 4 years, draining resources and morale. By 1918, the empire was collapsing from within. Different national groups declared independence, and the once mighty empire dissolved almost overnight. From the ruins of this vast empire, the modern Republic of Austria was born. The new Austria was dramatically smaller than the empire that came before it. It struggled economically and politically during the years between the world wars. Many Austrians believed their future lay with neighboring Germany. In 1938, that idea became reality when Nazi Germany annexed Austria in an event known as the Anschluss. Austria became part of Adolf Hitler's expanding regime and was drawn into the chaos of the Second World War. The war brought devastation across Europe. Cities were bombed, millions of lives were lost, and the continent was left in ruins. When the war finally ended in 1945, Austria was occupied by Allied forces and divided into zones controlled by different countries. For 10 years, Austria remained under occupation, but in 1955, a historic treaty restored Austria's independence. Austria agreed to remain permanently neutral, staying out of military alliances and focusing on stability and diplomacy. That decision shaped the country's modern identity. Instead of becoming a battlefield for Cold War tensions, Austria positioned itself as a bridge between East and West. Vienna became home to major international organizations and diplomatic meetings. Today, Austria is known for its high quality of life, breathtaking alpine landscapes, and rich cultural heritage. The echoes of its imperial past remain visible in grand palaces, historic streets, and world-famous concert halls. But Austria's story is more than castles and classical music. It is a reminder of how power rises and falls, how empires shape the world, and how nations reinvent themselves after dramatic change. From a small medieval frontier to the center of a massive empire, and finally to a peaceful modern republic, Austria's journey spans over 1,000 years of history. And that raises an interesting question. If the Austro-Hungarian Empire had survived, how different would Europe look today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Would the map of Europe be completely different, or was the empire always destined to collapse? If you enjoyed this journey through history, share this video with someone who loves discovering the hidden stories behind nations and empires. And don't forget to subscribe to Epic History Documentary and turn on notifications so you never miss the next journey into the past.